Go ahead, John.
No, go ahead, Steve, please.
I was going to say that, yeah, there are probably some common used metrics like code coverage for testing. Maybe some organizations use velocity in their agile planning. But I would say for the most part, people actually are remarkably shy or remarkably reluctant to get into any serious metrics. And my own sort of uncharitable analysis of that is just to say, because I think most people are quite afraid of what they'll find if they start looking.
I think that's true. I think the key to metrics is that people are generally afraid of them, right? If you start to introduce a metrics program in an organization, um, people are just afraid of what you're going to do with them, and particularly at the individual contributor level. But when I start to talk about metrics in general, I like to break them down into three sort of categories. And the three categories I use are outcome metrics, um, diagnostic metrics, and gauge metrics. And an outcome metric is um, if you were to ask your team three questions: Are you better now than you were? Are you going to be better than you are? How do you know? That outcome metric has to be the basis for that answer of the how do you know, in my opinion. So to the CEO, it could be something like improved profit, improved revenue, increase of revenue, increase of profit. They're really objective measurements that nobody can deny. They're based upon something that is really, really formal and universally accepted. And I think if you take an organization and you sort of cascade that down, um, you see, for example, a sales organization might be sales, might be cost of sales, might be discounts. So you can do that for manufacturing and a lot of other places. I think when you get into software, that becomes an issue, but we can talk about that. Diagnostic metrics are the ones that I think are the ones that are just numbers. Um, Steve, I think to some degree, some of the metrics that you mentioned, code coverage and things like that, cyclomatic complexity is one I used to love, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
um, is they're diagnostic metrics. They don't, if you get better code coverage, it doesn't necessarily guarantee a better outcome. It's a good thing to do, but it's not an outcome. If and one of the other important things I think is um, if I improve on my metric at my level, have I helped the next higher level of the organization achieve their goals? And so when I look at things like any diagnostic metric, be it code coverage, cyclomatic complexity, you could get 100% code coverage. You're not necessarily helping improve profitability or revenue. And I think that is um, a key differentiator. And then there's the third category I like to think of, which are the gauge metrics. And those are the metrics that I think of are like the gauges on your car. You have a speedometer, you have a gas gauge, you have engine oil heat or whatever you have. They're not exacts. They're real-time representations of what's going on, and there are operating ranges which, if ignored, may lead to problems. Right? If your gas gauge is on virtually empty and you can see the gas station, you're probably not in trouble. But if you've got a, a, an eighth of a tank and you just passed a sign that said 300 miles to the next gas station, you've got a problem. So there's
You're
those
in
three.
Nevada in that case.
Yeah, but there's sort of those three. Um, there's those three large buckets. I think the challenge we have in software is what's the bucket to say my software organization's doing better than it was, and what is that metric? And
Right.
that's, I think, been our challenge throughout.
It's I find it interesting we can